Welcome, everyone, to the Mindful Moments podcast. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, it's lovely to have you here. And for those who are tuning in again, welcome back. So these podcasts are an opportunity for us to share different ways mindfulness can show up in different people's lives. So people from the community that we work with, friends, family members, and giving them an opportunity to explain what mindfulness looks like for them. So my name's Lily. I am the founder of Mindful Sparks, and today I'm joined by Jenny Bilum, a teacher, life coaching training, and sound healer. So Jenny is a qualified primary teacher from the UK. She's been living and teaching in Thailand since 2019. Last year, she decided to take a year out of full-time teaching to focus more on her interests, personal development, and self-discovery. And at the moment, she's working freelance for a company that takes students on like adventurous residential breaks in Southeast Asia whilst completing her training to be a life coach. She's also a certified sound healer and runs sound healing events here in Bangkok and in the UK. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jenny. I'm super excited to connect with you and looking forward to hearing about like that decision and what it was like to transition from full-time teaching to taking a year out.
Thank you so much, Lily, for the opportunity to be here. I'm very excited to speak with you more about mindfulness today.
Cool. So kind of let's just start the beginning as we do with everyone that we chat with. When did you first become aware of mindfulness? Like when did it first kind of show up on your radar? And how did it move from something you were aware of to something that you integrated into your life?
So I think mindfulness for me is something that I have been aware of maybe from a teenager. I remember my mum saying things to me like, you should be more mindful. And yeah, definitely didn't feel particularly mindful throughout my life previously, throughout my 20s, particularly. But yeah, as I have learned more about mindfulness and also more about myself, I've been able to integrate it in lots and lots of different ways. So I did a degree in psychology, where we learned about positive psychology and mindfulness there. So really I love that unit about positive psychology, and yeah, that's where my interest really began. Although I don't think I really was practicing, throughout my 20s. I remember just rushing around, trying to cram everything in, and yeah, like having a bit of wanting to do everything, and thinking about the next thing and the goals and, that kind of thing. I've always been quite motivated. So yeah, within my teaching career, I tried to bring it into my classroom and, would do yoga with the children and, mindful coloring and that sort of thing. And we talked about it on a Friday. Normally we would have like a mindful afternoon, but really in my own life, particularly as a teacher, you're so busy and we talk about it, but I don't think I was really integrating it so much. So yeah, I think over the last few years, really, I've learned more about it and, just noticing where I need to stop and just listen to my body or listen to, the things that are going on around me. And yeah, that's really where it began for me. And I've really enjoyed this last year where I've taken a year out, particularly, and in being able to integrate a lot more of the practices.
That's awesome. I think it's so important you were talking about listening. Like it's so easy to also, well, it's easy to listen, but it's not always easy to hear what's being said either by someone to us or what's actually being said by, say, our body or what our needs are. So I think that's such an important point to pick up on, that it is about being able to stop, listen and hear and then make a decision based on that, rather than keeping in that cycle of like next thing, next thing, next thing. I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely. I think, it's all about first responding instead of reacting. I think that's really where the difference has come for me personally in my own life. Before I was often reacting to things. And now I feel I can, you know, things would trigger us and that's okay. But I think I take more time now to really just pause and then not react so quickly as I would have done before.
Mm-hmm. And that pausing, that taking that time to kind of think and reflect, did that come quite intuitively, or was that something you had to practice?
Definitely something I had to practice. I think instinctively, I and many of us, we just react. You know, it kind of feels like almost like defensive, you know. And I think as I have gained confidence within myself, I think that's where the biggest learning for me has happened, where I can just sit back and think about it. Often isn't about us, you know, when we are reacting to things. It's not about if we feel attacked, you know, there's things going on with all of us, you know, and we have to just notice, you know, just take a moment to notice.
Mm-hmm. And has your mindfulness practice changed over, I mean, you mentioned like you were aware of it, you'd learn about it at uni, and within your teaching career, you were bringing elements of it in, different practices into the classroom, but maybe it wasn't integrated into your personal life till later on. So has the way you engage with mindfulness changed over those years, like in terms of the kind of practices that you're drawn to?
Yes, massively. I think when I think about all the different elements of how I practice mindfulness, I think the first thing that comes to me, and the one that I've been doing the longest probably, is journaling. You know, even as a teenager, I remember there was a website that we all signed up to, you know, and we would journal and post our entries and things. And yeah, so journaling is something that I have been doing for a long, long time. But then, you know, my practices have evolved as I have evolved, you know, so um, I often do yoga, although to be honest, like a lot of things in my life, it tended to be like sporadic, or you know, I'd kind of do yoga for a while and then I'd find another interest and start doing that. And yeah, there wasn't as much commitment. But now, you know, I can't say that I'm like committed to yoga because you know, I'm not, but definitely um I understand more that yoga is more about um just being with yourself, you know. And you know, now when I go to a yoga class, I don't sit and compare myself to anybody else, you know, whereas before I would think, oh well, I'm not as flexible, or maybe I'm not going to be at the front because I can't do it as well as other people. And I think it's just in my mindset a lot of the time that's changed when I go to these things in terms of self-comparison, or um, you know, feeling that I can do it. You know, I just have to believe in myself. And so that has been a big change for me. And then, you know, within guided meditations, and I used to think that I couldn't meditate, you know, that I couldn't, I, I couldn't sit with myself. And actually, you know, thoughts, it's all part of the process. And actually, it's just the being able to, when you notice the thought, that is part of it, and being able to let it go. So, you know, I'm still on my own journey, and I think we all are, and it's ongoing. And, you know, some days it's easier than others, you know, and it's all part of mindfulness, like accepting that it's not going to be perfect every day. And I don't have to be perfect also. I just need to try and also show up. Um, and yeah, I think in also the biggest thing that I think's changed over time for me is my recent learning in embodiment, and just being in my body, you know, trying to get out of my mind all the time and noticing about how I'm feeling and why I'm feeling a certain way. So, you know, if I'm having like some emotions that are difficult to deal with, like maybe I'll just sit and be with my breath for a while, or even like shaking or dancing. I love to dance. Yeah, trying to make it a bit more fun too. Um, and the pace, I think, yeah, that's the last thing. My pace tends to be a lot slower than it was in my 20s. So yeah, that's
Mm.
it, I think.
Yeah. My gosh, I hear that one. Like when I think back to like what my days used to look like in my 20s and even early 30s and just thinking, I don't know how I managed to fit all that in. It just doesn't work like that anymore. And there is definitely, I agree with you. I think there's a lot of comfort and joy in slowing down, but I think it's really hard. Like I remember when I first moved to Thailand in 2009, it was the first time I'd ever lived fully by myself. And I remember just being like, well, what do I do? Like, what do I do? Like, I have all this time, and what do I do? Because you're so used to always being around other people, shared housing and things like that, that there was always something to do. And when I was by myself, I remember being like, good gosh, this is really hard because you're just left with you and your thoughts, right? And you naturally kind of take that attention inwards a little bit more. And then you're just like, good gosh, this is hectic up here. Like, this is a lot going on that maybe we've never really connected with before because we're so distracted by everything else, right?
That's such a good point. Actually, I remember sort of in my later 20s, I then was thinking about where I was going to live, and I thought about, oh, I'll get a 2 bedroom, and then a friend can come and live with me. Like, I just couldn't bear to be alone. Fridays and Saturday nights, I wanted to be out all the time partying. I just couldn't. It was boring to me. It was so boring to stay in and be with myself. And actually, now I'm so grateful when I have alone time.
Mm. Oh my gosh, me too. I'm like, I think it was, I can't remember exactly when, but definitely having that moment of being like, no, actually, I've spent more nights chilling at home by myself or with a couple of friends, that are very low key, and actually finding how much that builds me up rather than depletes my energy. Like I feel so much more nourishment from that and feel so much more connected to like my friends and to a community. Whereas it can be fun. Of course, I love going out. I wouldn't change anything, from when I was younger, but I can definitely see that difference in that kind of superficial connection as opposed to that deeper connection when you are able to just slow down a little bit and really understand, like, where do I fit in all of this, and how does all of this community I'm part of, this situation, how does that benefit me and nourish me and help me grow?
Yeah, definitely. I know that my own community in Bangkok has definitely got smaller, and I enjoy that, the same as you. I think it really is you have more meaningful connections, I think, and it's enjoyable.
Yeah, for sure. And I really want to touch on your transition. So you were teaching full time, and now to taking that year out, potentially to go back to teaching, maybe, maybe not. But what was that process like of thinking, okay, I'm going to leave a career in a profession that I know and that I love and that I'm amazing at, to just kind of seeing what happens? How did that kind of come around?
Yeah, it's definitely been a whole year of really kind of looking inwards and lots of personal development. I am really fortunate that life coaching kind of fell into my lap, really. When we went into COVID, I was, even from the beginning of COVID, what am I going to do? How am I going to, keep myself busy? So I went on the Meetup app and I looked for something that would occupy me while we were at home. And I found a teacher who was an expat teaching other expats how to speak in Thai. And we did that for a while and it was great. And then one day he said to me, I can't teach you Thai anymore. I'm a life coach and um, it's taking off, So then he offered me a session. And so then I started life coaching with him. And I really started to think about what I wanted, and the goals. I was somebody that I just couldn't think about the future. Like I couldn't think about, I knew from a young age that I wanted to be a teacher, and then I became a teacher. And then I was in within teaching and everything was just progressing. And it was, I didn't really have a plan after that. I didn't really have a goal so much. And I think as much as I love teaching, I think I kind of got a little bit lost in it. You tend to give so much of yourself every day that you kind of forget about taking the time for you. But then, it's a vicious cycle, really, because you're also like a role model, for those young people too. So I had to take a moment, to think about myself. And within international teaching, you sign these 2-year contracts, and I felt that I didn't want Thailand to be my forever home. And so I thought about the next thing and the next kind of aspiration that I had, really. And I had done a lot of work over those couple of years with coaching and looking at myself, and thinking about where I wanted to go, and mindful practices like sound healing and like Reiki and all of these different healing modalities that I'd been interested in. And yeah, it was hard. Like initially when I stepped out away from the classroom, especially here, the uncertainty of, you don't know where the next paycheck is coming from, or you don't know, with the visa situation, how that's going to go, or you have so much uncertainty, but it's also life. There is so much uncertainty with life, and it's about just meeting that, and thinking about, how we can manage in the moment when it is tough. And I think all of the experiences that I've had over the last year have just yeah, they've just made me stronger. And yeah, I'm excited now when I think about change and the unknown. It's exciting rather than, I mean, it's nerve-wracking, but it's also exciting. And so I can be with that feeling and
Mm.
all of the feelings, because there's so many.
100%. And it's so true. Like, I think sometimes we can get caught up in like it has to be a certain way, or it's got, A to B to C to D, but sometimes two opposing truths can be true at the same time. Like it can be terrifying, but it can also be so exciting. Uncertainty can also lead to so much opportunity I'm just not aware of yet. And if we are able to sit with our thoughts, our emotions, the sensations in our body, and just check in with ourselves and be like, okay, is this something that actually I am excited by and I want to explore further? Or is this something that maybe it's making me feel a bit uncomfortable for now? I can come back to that and think about that at a later date. I mean, that's mindfulness right there and right there in that moment. Super exciting. Have there been any since you've left? I mean, you mentioned about being more comfortable with uncertainty, but have there been any other like takeaways from this year out that you've noticed?
Yeah, I think definitely one thing that I've noticed has been around time. Like before, particularly, in teaching and, so many other things. Oh, we have no time. There's no time for this. There's no time for that. I have no time to work on myself. And actually, I've had so much time, an abundance of time, and still I haven't managed to get certain things done that I've wanted to. And therefore, it's not about time. It's just an excuse. Time is an excuse. If you want to do something, you can make the time for it. It's just, trying to fit in. You can do something for 3 minutes a day. Everybody has that time to do it. It's about making it a priority. And yeah, I think that's been a massive takeaway. And also in like other limiting beliefs, so time, a limiting belief, oh, I don't have enough time, or I'm not confident enough to do that yet, or I'm not ready yet, to do that, to make that leap. I think just to touch on what you were saying before about like new experiences, and I think, you know, taking the leap outside of teaching has really just shown me that there are so many opportunities, that there are different ways of doing things. And sometimes when we're so used to the same routine, you get up, you go to school, you're kind of counting down the days almost to the next thing. And actually, when you take a moment to just try some new experiences that, you know, they then lead to new feelings and emotions and behaviors, and then you then create new patterns and habits. And yeah, it's definitely, I think, worthwhile just trying something new and trying something that you think that you know, haven't given yourself an opportunity to do before. So I think that's, for me, it's just, you know, I went from having a salary to going into the freelance world, and it was just kind of, you know, unsafe to begin with. And yeah, you just try to work with what you have and not put too much pressure on yourself as well, to, you know, be proud of yourself in the moment that you were courageous enough to do something different than is something different to your normal routine.
Oh, that's such a beautiful answer, right? To be courageous and try something new, whatever that is. It doesn't have to be leaving your career and taking a year out. It could just be trying a new, you know, like a new exercise routine, or trying something new to eat, trying joining a new community, whatever that is. But yeah, there's a lot of power in acknowledging how tricky that can be for some people, and you know, myself included. But then being also able to bring in that compassion if it doesn't quite work out, or if it's like, okay, that wasn't quite what I expected. You know, like, okay, I tried something new, I've learned from it. I'm aware that this didn't align in the way I thought it was going to align with me, and that's okay. So let's try something else. And
Compassion is such a big one.
such a big one. And just talking about time, I am aware that, you know, I don't want to take up too much of your afternoon. So just to kind of wrap it up, one question we're asking everyone, because there is no real one way to practice mindfulness. Mindfulness looks so different for everybody. So we found during our workshops and, you know, data that we've collected from our participants, nearly 60% of people that come to our trainings and workshops, they've heard of mindfulness, but they don't really know like what it is. They couldn't kind of explain it to other people. So how would you explain mindfulness to someone?
I think mindfulness to me is just having an awareness of yourself, and connecting with your values and the reasons why you do things, and being able to stay very much in the present moment. Um, Having self-compassion, you know, just being able to be proud of yourself. And, you know, we all have this inner critic, you know, and being able to just put that inner critic to the side, and, you know, just being able to stay with yourself and true to yourself, within the present moment. And yeah, that's what mindfulness is to me.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat today, Jenny. It's been awesome. And in the underneath the video, we'll put links to your website and your Instagram so people can check you out and see where you are and what you're up to. And yeah, hopefully they can connect with you. So thank you so much. It's been wonderful. And I look forward to chatting with you soon.
Thank you so much, Lily. It's been amazing.